That was just my take on it. It's like I would rather get better right now when you have a capable roster around you. We talked about it. It's like this team was good last year. They were just missing a quarterback.
When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll tour. When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock.
Hey, Tyler.
Hey, Piet.
What's going on? Welcome to the New Score podcast. My name is Pat. This is my co-host, TYG, Tyler Pratt. Tyler, how are we doing?
Not good. I had to sit here through the entire first half and actually watch Michigan just get steamrolled by Texas. So I could be better. I'll just put it that way. I'll leave it at that, though. But we're not here to talk about how bad Michigan sucks and how they don't have a quarterback and how their offensive scheme is absolutely awful. We're not here to talk about any of that. So let's get to the meat.
Yeah, they don't have Daddy Harbaugh in there running the building. So their savior is no longer there, and they're going to go back to just being what Michigan's been before Harbaugh. So that's pretty exciting. But what's more exciting than that is we are less than 24 hours away, Tyler, from all of these 1 o'clock games. All of these 1 o'clock games kicking off on the Red Zone channel. We got NFL football all day tomorrow. It feels like Christmas Eve. It really does. It feels like Christmas Eve. I'm so excited to just start the season, Tyler. The buildup is over. We had a great Thursday night game, great Friday night game. I can't believe like how great those football games were. 4 great teams. Hoping that Jordan Love is going to be okay. We're going to get into that, of course, sometime early next week when we do all of our recaps. We're going to talk about those games. But today it's not about those games. Today is about the NFC South division. Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay Bucks, New Orleans Saints, Carolina Panthers. This episode is about you, and we're excited to talk about it. We were fortunate enough to sit down with an Atlanta Falcons fan, had some questions for him. That interview we're going to post at the end of this. But Tyler, looking at this division right now, those Atlanta Falcons are the favorite, but our rule is whoever wins that division, you got to take that team off. And right now, that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who a lot of people are sleeping on right now. Another season, you're going into it, and people are sleeping on the Bucs. They're still the team to beat, in my opinion. The Atlanta Falcons got to show us. They got to go out there and do it at the end of the day. Like, you can win the offseason, that's great. But at the end of the day, it's the Bucs division. The Saints are going to be tough. We both think the Carolina Panthers are going to be better than last year. I mean, it's hard to get worse than what they were last year, but I can see Carolina really hanging with some teams. I was talking to Todd about them, and we're going to get into them, of course, but I really see like a potential of them kind of being like the Arizona Cardinals of last year, where they're not going to be like in it. They're not going to be a factor, in the playoff picture late in the season. But I think they're going to be capable of really upsetting some teams. They're going to really surprise some teams. I think the Vikings are going to be that as well. I think the Vikings can upset some teams this season. But another thing I'm looking forward to is Bryce Young. Getting Canales in that building and working with him and really getting like the speed down for him, because the offensive line was terrible, yes, last year, but it just seemed like everything was moving very fast for Bryce Young. So I want to see him adapt, kind of take a couple mental steps, mental leaps this season, and I'm excited to watch him. I really think, all these people out there slamming Bryce Young, saying like the dude's career is over after 1 year. And it's like, oh my God, they drafted CJ Stroud over him. It's like, relax, man, relax. Go back and look at Jared Goff's rookie season and then talk to me about Bryce Young. But anyways, if you are on YouTube right now, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Get at us on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Tyler, looking at this division right now, obviously those Atlanta Falcons are the favorite. We dove into the Falcons a lot with Denzel when he was on here, so I don't want to really cover them too much right now. But if it's not the Falcons, who is it in this division? To me, like I said, you got to run through the Bucs. Baker Mayfield's back. Mike Evans is back. I expect that offense to still be clicking. Todd Bowles still running that defense. To me, if it's not the Falcons, it is those Tampa Bay Bucs. How do you feel about those New Orleans Saints?
It ain't going to be them. I'll tell you who it's not going to be is the Saints. I think the Panthers have more potential than the Saints do to make a run for if it ain't the Falcons or the Bucs. I have more confidence in the Panthers than I do the Saints. I just think that there's if things start to go south early in the year, I wouldn't be surprised to see Dennis Allen out the door, right? But we'll getting all that here in a minute. But I have no confidence in the Saints this year. I have to be optimistic and root for Derek Carr because I have him in one of my fantasy leagues, which is a little disappointing. But either way, I got him. So I'm with you though. If it ain't the Falcons, it's the Bucs, and then I got the Panthers 3, Saints 4.
When you say it's definitely not going to be the Saints, that is interesting because I know some people out there do have confidence in the Saints. And another thing about this division is the Falcons may seem like the easy favorite, but this is that one division in the NFL that is so unpredictable season to season, year after year. It's like you have no idea who can come out on top of this division. Like last year, it was the AFC South division. You saw the Texans go from worst to first, and it's not like out of the realm of possibilities to think Carolina can go worst to first in this year. We've seen it happen in this division. This division is very kooky when it comes to that. It's just so unpredictable, and most of the time, these teams hang out around the same record, and then you get to the last 3-4 games of the season, anything can happen at that point, the way it shakes out. So that's another thing is it's probably the most unpredictable division, and it is our last division preview. So certainly last, but certainly not least. When you say though that the Saints can't get it done, like what don't you like on their offense?
I just don't think they have enough outside of Olave. I'm not the biggest fan of Derek Carr to lead a team if he doesn't have enough around them. Their offensive line, there's obviously question marks there. Kamara, can Kamara be the Kamara from 5 years ago? Probably not. But the biggest thing for me is their coach. I just think Dennis Allen might be the worst head coach in all of football right now, and I don't have any faith that he can lead this team, coach this team to a division title, right? So that's just where I'm at with it. I don't hate the Saints by any means. I just have close to zero confidence in them heading into the season. But who knows? Maybe the first couple of weeks they prove me wrong and give me a little bit of confidence boost. But right now, I'm not there with them.
Defense is getting a little older for them, but I still like their defense. You bring up Dennis Allen. I totally agree. I think he's shown to be in over his head a bit as an NFL head coach. I mean, even going back to the days when he was coaching the Raiders, I just think he's one of those guys where great defensive mind, he can run your defense. Like the Saints defense has been great since he's been there. I totally get it. But there's some of those guys that they can't get it together as a head coach, running a football team. And I think another thing is Carmichael was their OC. I think he's gone now. Um, I don't. Do you know who their offensive coordinator is by any chance? And then I do like Olave a lot. Chris Olave is an absolute weapon, but it's like besides him, what are we gonna get from this offense? Kamara, you nailed it. I think Kamara can still have some capabilities. Of course, he's still very talented, but there are a lot of miles on him. A lot of miles on him at this point in his career. And it's like, how explosive can you expect him to be throughout the duration of a season? Can he stay healthy too? Is another thing. But yeah, to me, is Chris Olave he's going to have a ton of targets, but they're going to need somebody else to step up. And I know Shaheed came on for them last season. I think him and Carr built a nice little repertoire. The deep balls, especially like Shaheed, is one of those guys where you could throw a deep ball and get a big splash play out of nowhere. Like he could just come out of the field and have that kind of impact. So I think that's big for them getting him back there. But other than that, I don't know. I don't know about Dennis Allen. Um, while you're talking about the Tampa Bay Bucks, I'm going to look up who the Saints' new OC is.
Yeah, I mean, the Bucks, just offensively, to me, it starts with tackle play, and they have one of the better left tackles in the league. Baker had obviously the best season of his career last year, with Canales being gone. We're going to see how that goes, but he's still got Mike Evans. He's still got Chris Godwin. They took McMillan out of Washington in the third round, and they're moving Godwin to the slot, which is, I think, something that is worth noting and paying attention to, at least early in the year, is seeing how Godwin is being utilized in the slot, because I think he can be dangerous there. So just the way that they're kind of running this offense, and with Rashad White too, like they have pieces on the offensive end. I think maybe other than the Falcons, or they might be right up there with the Falcons, because at wide receiver, when you think of the Falcons, you've got Drake London, who I think everybody is high on, but other than that, they don't have a lot. Um, we love their running backs there, though. We love the offensive line and obviously Brandon Kirk. So I think that, with Tampa having just as much firepower, it puts them in the same conversation. And then they go and use their first round pick on Barton, and, love him, of course. So they plug him in at center. And I like what they have up front in the trenches. Defensive side of the ball, they like Dean. They got one of the best safeties in the league in Winfield Jr. Solid
They got him paid
linebackers.
too, which was big.
Yeah, exactly. So defensively, they might not have, um, they might not have one of the better units in the league, but they have Todd Bowles. Bowles is going to get the best out of that unit. So I think the offense carries this team, and Bowles has the defense doing just enough to make the Bucks relevant, right? So even though they lose Canales, I still think Baker has learned enough, and he can build off of what he did last year. He's got solid pieces around him. He doesn't need to do too much. I'm not super high on the Bucks, but I'm not low on them either. I do think that they're probably, if it ain't the Falcons, it's the Bucks for me.
And that new offensive coordinator for the Bucks is Liam Cohen. I don't think they're going to miss a beat there. Liam Cohen comes over from the Rams.
Yep.
And he was with Baker when Baker just showed up out of nowhere late in the season for the Rams. I think he showed up on a Tuesday in LA, and then he played that Thursday against the Raiders and got a win and actually looked pretty dang good out there for us. So, and then he continued to play well throughout the rest of that season. So it was fun to watch Baker in a Rams uniform. But yeah, he's got Liam Cohen. I've heard Baker talk in interviews this offseason about that subject, about the new offense. But he loves Liam Cohen. He loves Liam Cohen's system. So I think you could maybe even see a better season out of Baker this year than you did last year, and that's why I'm just confused looking around everywhere, like Vegas. Like, I get it, the Falcons were the offseason darling, right? But at the end of the day, this is the Bucks division to lose. They did lose some pieces, and their guys are getting a little older, some of their key guys, obviously. But I think this team's gonna be there until the end, and like I said, last 3, 4 weeks, anything can happen, and I like the I don't love Todd Bowles as a head coach, but you nailed it. Like, he's always got that defense playing. You know, they've been banged up past couple years, and it seems like they're just consistent. They're consistent. They're able to make games sloppy for the other team's offenses if they have to, and win these weird games. But last season, it was a lot of Baker Mayfield. There's a lot of Baker Mayfield. There's a lot of Rashad White, guy we haven't brought up. Rashad White, I wasn't high on him when going into last year when they were like, all right, this is going to be our starting back. It was kind of like, all right, you know, and then we saw him last season. I was like, okay, they got a guy. They got a guy at running back. And then I know they've got some really good depth there too at running back. And I think they got some good depth at receiver. So they're doing a good job of bringing guys in, eventually going to be replacing Evans and Godwin. And then Kate Otten. Can't forget about Kate Otten. Kate Otten was a great target for Baker last year as well. So when you really nailed it, I think that there's more to trust. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are easier to trust right now than the New Orleans Saints when you look at those two teams. Um, and honestly, like the cohesion that they already have in Tampa and everything, and another year together, another year with Baker there, he's very happy. They love him. He loves playing for them. That's that's interesting. That's interesting looking at their odds compared to Atlanta's. And obviously, we're going to dive into Atlanta here very soon with that interview we had. But let's cap this off by talking about the Carolina Panthers. Nobody expects anything from this team this season. I said what I said about, Canales coming in there. I really hope Bryce Young takes the leap mentally, specifically, and just getting that dude some confidence because that dude just got shit on all offseason, all last year. They're saying, oh my God, why did they draft this guy first overall? Blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, the dude was running for his life. His best target was Adam Thielen. They bring in a receiver, Xavier Legette, who they really like, and they actually got some decent depth at receiver now. So it's like you have to help your guy out. You can't expect this rookie quarterback who's going out on the worst team in the league and just like all of a sudden looking like a magic man. It's just not going to happen, especially with what, like I said, what he was dealing with on that offensive line last year. It's just not good, not good football in Carolina. So I want to see a better surrounding for Bryce Young so that it allows him to step into that role and just get some confidence. But how do you see the Carolina Panthers season playing out?
Honestly, a lot better than I think a lot of people, especially the public, perceive. There's a lot of sharks, a lot of pros who are on this team, and they're a sleeper pick to go worst to first, right? Because this division has probably a little bit, maybe the most unknown out of any division. I think comparatively, but on a different scale, is like the AFC East, because in the AFC East, you don't really know what to expect with the Bills. You just know the Patriots aren't in it, but you got Bills, Jets, Dolphins. You're not really sure who's going to win the division there. Here, same thing. You got Falcons, Bucks, Panthers. I don't really not considering the Saints. So with all that unknown, the Panthers have a okay shot at going worst to first, and there's a lot of pro money on them. I think the public is just not, taking into consideration how bad that coaching staff was from last year, right? Like they just didn't do anything, and that roster, they made a lot of improvements. They didn't do anything to help Bryce Young out last year. So you just see how bad they were, and the Panthers had some really bad breaks, just some bad luck in some of those games, just super like untimely turnovers, and they're just not as bad as people perceive. So to kind of touch on what you said earlier, comparing them to the Cardinals from last year and how they can, make some of these games close and give teams a run for their money. And they're probably not going to have a great look at winning the division or getting into the playoffs, but they're going to be competitive. And I think that's exactly what you're going to get out of this team. Making upgrades at both guard spots. They bring back both tackles who really didn't play that bad last year. They had solid tackle play. They upgraded both guard spots. Again, at wide receiver, they bring in Deontay Johnson, who I think is a little bit underrated. His time in Pittsburgh was a little underwhelming. I get that. They spent a 4th-round pick and bring in the tight end out of Texas. You touched on it. They drafted Leggett. They get Jonathan Brooks, who is the best running back in the draft. He's going to miss at least the first 4 games, but once he's back, then they have good depth at running back, right? Him, Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders being your 3rd running back, I think is good. I mean, Miles Sanders is not a 1 anymore, but if he's your 2 or your 3, that's good depth just to, come in as a change of pace guy out of the backfield. So all that being said, the question marks are coming on the defense, but they got some good pieces at safety and in secondary. So it's really that front 7 that's got to hold up for them. But I like what they're doing. They're trending in the right direction. They're bringing in Canales to pair him with Bryce Young, really coach him up, see what he did with Geno Smith 2 years ago, what he did with Baker last year. It's just, I got a lot more confidence than a lot of people do in this team this year.
I totally agree. I think their defense is lacking, especially after trading Brian Burns. So there's gonna be some growing pains on that defense. I think when you look at it, there's just
For
like I
sure.
said, there's not a lot there. But I'm not honestly, I'm not even concerned with that. Like it'd be a good season for the Carolina Panthers to come out of this with like 7 wins, 7, 8 wins in there. Like that's a really good season in my opinion, and just see the strides from Bryce Young. Like see the strides, see Canales implementing a system, the offense having good rhythm. He's going through his reads, he's getting the ball out quick. Offensive line's keeping him upright. You're getting the run game going. You got a plethora of backs. You draft Jonathan Brooks as well. Can't wait to see him when he comes back. They got some young tight ends as well. They upgraded the offensive line, which was horrid last year. So it's like I want to see that unit play nice together or play well together. And then whatever happens on the defense, man, I don't think it's going to be pretty for the Panthers defense this season. But as long as we see those strides from Bryce Young, you can go into next offseason with the confidence of, okay, whew, we got our guy at least. We got our guy. Offense looked good. We got the guy at head coach. He's calling the right plays. His scheme works. His scheme fits our guys. That's great for Carolina. And then you use this next offseason to spend that draft pick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't have. I know Chicago's still got one of them, but you spend all of those draft picks on improving your defense, and then you're going to have some money. Tepper's going to
Yep.
have that money to spend, and you spend it on the defensive guys to come in. And then just like that, you can give it a go next season. That's best case
Mm-hmm.
scenario, I think, for the Carolina Panthers. At the end of the day, I said you can go worst to first. It's hard. It's really hard to see that happening with this defense, even if Bryce Young does ball out this year, which I really hope he does. I just don't
Mm-hmm.
think there's enough there. I like the Tampa Bay Bucks to win this division. I'm not high on the Saints either, like you, but they do have Clint Kubiak as their new offensive coordinator. So we want to mention that. That's a huge upgrade. They go from like a C minus to, borderline A plus, A minus guy that has coached football for a long time. He's NFL coach's legend, Gary Kubiak's son, comes over from San Francisco. So he's been in that Shanahan tree. It's and the Kubiaks and Shanahans, those are linked. They're just linked families in the NFL. So the guy can coach offense. What can he cook up with Derek Carr and Kamara and Olave remains to be seen.
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe he gets the promotion to head coach sometime this season. If Dennis Allen's
Mm-hmm.
out the door, he might get that promotion. We'll see what happens. But before we get to the Falcons interview, something interesting, Tyler, because I do really like the Bucks. After just sitting down here and talking about it some more, I like the Bucks a lot. Folks, right now they are plus 325. Plus 325 to win this division. So I started thinking, well, I like the Bucks, I think. I know I really like the Chiefs and I really like the 49ers to win their divisions. So I paired that up into a little 3-leg, and that's plus 741 right there.
Mm.
So a nice little 3-leg division parlay prop that I actually just put in while we were going through this. So excited about that. Tyler, you got anything else you want to cap off talking about this division before we get to our interview?
Yeah, well, I kind of wanted to even touch a little bit more on this Panthers team, like J.C. Horn. I know a lot of people forget about him. He is a dog when this guy's healthy and playing. He missed a lot of time last year, right? So him, Jackson, Hill, this secondary can hold up. I know they lose Brian Burns, which is a huge loss because he's one of the better, outside linebackers, edges in the league. But they replaced him with Jadeveon Clowney, who I think had like 10 or 11 sacks last year. Like Clowney's still getting it done. He ain't what he used to be in Houston, but he's still getting it done. And then they got Derek Brown, who's one of the best D tackles in the league. So that they're not in as bad of a position as people think. And they got your boy Josie Jewell. So, this team is not as bad as people perceive. So I think a lot of people are sleeping on them, especially if you can get their over. I think Carolina's over, that win total was sitting at like 5.5 or something like that. Maybe it was 6.5 at the absolute max. But I remember I hammered their over on the win total. So if you can go and get that before it gets too high or there's too much money in there, I would highly, highly, highly advise you to consider that heavily. Especially playing this division, I'm not high on the Saints. I think they're going to give the Bucks a run for their money, and who knows, they could even get one from the Falcons. They are going to have an easier schedule because they finished last year. So just give them a little more consideration than you have been. I think this team, it can surprise a lot of people, especially Bryce Young.
All right, let's get to Denzel and the Atlanta Falcons. Joining us now to talk some Dirty Bird Atlanta Falcons, we got Denzel Adams. Denzel, how we doing?
Pretty good. How's it going, Pat, Tyler? Good to see you guys.
Good to see
Great
you,
to see you making your podcast debut on New Score. It's great to see you. We've been talking about this for a while, so you're our Falcons guy. I'm glad we could check in with you. It's been a busy offseason for your Atlanta Falcons, so let's dive into that. Last year, you finished 7-10. You finished third in the division, missed the playoffs, obviously. Raheem Morris comes in, new head coach. You get him from the Rams. New OC, Zach Robinson. You get him from the Rams. And the new DC now is Jimmy Lake. But, I mean, Raheem Morris is going to be implementing his defensive system, and I'm excited to see how he does. And then Zach Robinson, obviously, on offense. Big thing that you did, you paid Kirk Cousins. You're that team. And we talked about it going into the offseason. We thought Todd actually was on here, and he said, I could see Kirk Cousins going to Atlanta. It just seems like a perfect fit. The roster's there around. They're just missing that quarterback. We know what Desmond Ridder did last couple of years, just not that guy. So you bring in Kirk Cousins, and then on top of that, you invest your top 10 draft pick in another quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. I'm anxious to dive into that in a little bit. I want to get your perspective, your thoughts, your opinion. Maybe your opinion is shifted from that pick till now. I'm anxious to see how you feel about that. Yeah. Obviously, Bijan coming back. Bijan is going at all. He's going to the top of all these fantasy drafts. Everybody's expecting a big year out of Bijan, out of, running the ball and then catching the ball as well. And then obviously you have Algier, who's very capable of running back as well in there. 100%. Drake London really made some strides, and we talked about it off air. It's like Drake London had a great year last year with not good quarterback play. Like you were going back and forth from
between
Ridder.
Him and Heineke.
Exactly. So Drake London, I am excited to see how he does with Kirk Cousins now. You also bring in Darnell Mooney. You did trade Ridder to Arizona and got Rondell Moore, but Rondell Moore, unfortunately, is out. He's hurt. Kadero Hodge, another wide receiver in that room. Ray McLeod as well, new receivers in that room. Kyle Pitts, I'm curious to see how you feel about Kyle Pitts. Like, is this year the dude has to break out? Going through the rest of the offense, though, just addressing that offensive line, I I praised their O-line a lot last couple of years. I think their O-line
Top
has
5 in the
been,
league, I believe.
yeah, as a
Yeah.
unit, that O-line is very well put together. Looking at this offense right now, it looks nice. I mean, and obviously, if you look at the rest of the NFC South, like this offense, the weapons, the skill positions, the quarterback now, it all looks pretty. In your opinion, what are you excited about this offense this season? And then what are you concerned?
So right now I'm pretty excited about getting Kirk in there, seeing what he can do. That seemed like the only reason we weren't able to get in the playoffs was just bad quarterback play last season. We competed all the way to the end, pretty much week 18. We still always had a chance, and we had some pretty bad quarterback play. B. John was a beast for us. He had almost 1,000 yards rushing, I believe, and almost like 600 yards receiving. A couple touchdowns for each, like 4 touchdowns each side, I believe. Drake London had a phenomenal year. He also almost had 1,000 yards with a terrible, terrible quarterback play, which speaks a lot that we can get a good veteran guy up there and hopefully get things really rolling. We lost some dudes like Jonnu Smith, who also was a beast for us last year. Even with Pitts out there, it looked like Jonnu was the best tight end on our team. Tyler Algier, nobody really talks about him that much. I'm glad that you brought him up because I love the dude. It's a great combo. Bijan back there, and I feel like Atlanta's going to be a tough team to stop in the South for those other teams. I don't know.
And like you said, you like Algier a lot, and he's a great combo with Bijan, and they're running behind a really good offensive line. So I expect the run game, now that you have Kirk, the run game's only going to get even better. I'm excited about that, and I'm excited to see what Zach Robinson does with this offense. Tyler, looking at this offense right now, what sticks out to you?
The fact that they're gonna have two, I mean, that 1-2 combo with Bijan and Algier, I think people will start to actually realize it might be one of the best in the NFL, and they're running behind one of the top offensive lines in the league. And Kirk Cousins, if I'm not mistaken, has been one of the best over the course of his career play action quarterbacks. So him to be able to, they're going to run the ball, they're going to hammer it. I think that the play action off of that to get London, Pitts, like it's going to be, it can be a great year for them offensively, which the Falcons haven't had in a few years since Matt Ryan's glory days. So I think it's going to be a breath of fresh air. But yeah, the one thing that sticks out to me is definitely going to be the running back duo behind that offensive line.
Only that I'm too worried about is just our depth at the receiver. I know we got Darnell Mooney. He had he played for Chicago last year, so they didn't have very great quarterback play. I know he went for like 1,000 yards 2 years ago or so. So maybe get him back stepped up. I was really looking forward to getting Rondell Moore going, but he's injured right now. Maybe Ray McLeod or Cadell Hodge can get some stuff going for us at the 2 or 3 on the field or in the slot.
Do you think that like this is the year we're going to see the Kyle Pitts explosion?
One could only hope. I mean, we've been saying this for the past 3 years, hoping he really gets going. I know we haven't had the greatest quarterback play. Kirk out there, hopefully they can get him the ball. I mean, it's not like the guy wasn't open. They just weren't getting him the ball, it looked like out there. And when he did have the ball in his hand, he made some plays. So I'm hoping this year with this new offense coordinator and this new look team, we're looking like we're going to be able to put some points on the board, hopefully bring back the South down to Atlanta.
Before we move on to the defense, I do want to get your opinion because it was controversial around the league. Everybody was talking about it after the draft. The Atlanta Falcons, after paying Kirk Cousins to be their quarterback of the future, seemingly, they draft Michael Penix with their top 10 pick. And on this podcast, I said, it's like, I get it, like if you wanted the dude, but it seemed crazy to me to invest that value of a top 10 pick in a position that wasn't going to help you right now. That was just my take on it. It's like I would rather get better right now when you have a capable roster around you. We talked about it. It's like this team was good last year. They were just missing a quarterback. Besides the quarterback position, they were there. So I thought going into the draft, it's like sure up the edge, like get something on the edge that's going to benefit you in the top 10. But they did do that by bringing Matthew Judon, which we're going to get to. But before we get to the defense, what was your take when they drafted Michael Penix Jr.? And is it different? Has your mind changed at all since then?
So when that pick happened, I was pretty shocked, especially considering us paying Kirk the amount of money we did and signing him, especially with other dudes available on the board there. We could have got depth at receiver. I think Roma Duze was still available there. I was thinking that might have been the guy for us, or some D-line help. We really needed that. But I know Grady was hurt all year, pretty much. He only played like half the season. So he didn't really get the production out of him. And now we got a defensive-minded head coach. So that's another thing I was thinking. But he played in one preseason game. I think he took like 20-something steps. He looked pretty solid out there. Penix, definitely see him as a starter in the future. Hoping, Kirk stays healthy this year and they don't have to force him into the role. I'm excited to see him hopefully in a couple years, see what he can do. I know he's older too, so that was also quite an interesting pick. Atlanta's always known to go get their guy. I mean, they did that with Julio. They jumped up, I don't know how many picks to go get Julio. That was kind of a shock. So they really wanted him. They thought he was their guy, so they got who they wanted. And I'm just going to trust that they figured it. They know what they're doing out there, and that's why they're making that money.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when that my jaw dropped when the pick happened, because I thought, like what Pat mentioned, there were so many other things they could have done to help them out right now. And so, of course, naturally, I looked into why. I had to do research to see what the GM's thought was. And he essentially said something along the lines of, this was a move that's going to help our team in, 2-3 years down the road that we felt we couldn't pass up on now. And while I can get behind that, I understand that it's like looking at their receiving core with Rome Odunze on the board at that time, other than Drake London, they had to bring in Darnell Mooney, Ray McLeod, Kadarius Hodge. They spent a 6th-round pick on Casey Washington. They traded for Rondell Moore. Oh, the other quarterback. So,
we don't like to talk about him too much out there anymore.
Yeah, it's like saying Voldemort and Harry Potter. Like you shall not speak his name, right?
Yeah, he was pretty bad. I don't even think he made their roster out there.
That actually would be really funny. I want to look into that as soon as we're done recording. Because now I'm
just remember, like the amount of turnovers in the red zone was insane last year. Like that's just a killer. That's losing games. Yeah, going down the other side of the field and then just turning the ball back over is you're not going to win football games doing that. But let's move on to this Atlanta Falcons defense. Would you say it is much improved when you look at it? And not to mention, they got a great defensive mind. I know all about Raheem Morris. He's been with the Rams, the last few years. He was our coordinator when we won a Super Bowl. He does such a great job of just getting, like, our defense has been so young these last couple of years, and I can't stress enough the impact that Raheem Morris had on those guys and the growth of those guys. And our defense was not supposed to be good last year, and they were much better because of Raheem Morris. So definitely a huge loss for us, huge gain for you. Looking at the defense, I mean, the front, like I said, you trade for Judon. That's huge on the edge.
Huge.
I said draft edge, but you made up for it by giving up, I believe, a 3rd-round pick for Matthew Judon. Grady Jarrett coming back, hopefully fully healthy from an injury. Besides that, Anyamata in the inside, he had a great year last year.
Yeah.
Not to mention you bring in Justin Simmons at safety to pair up with Jesse Bates. That's just a scary combination. If Justin Simmons plays, half as good as he has throughout his career, like Jesse Bates has been so good.
I believe he led the team in tackles last season, which probably isn't the best for your safety to be leading your team in tackles, but he was a great
he's a dog
for our team, Jesse Bates. Yeah. With Troy Anderson, when he got injured last year, Nate Landman also was a dog for us last year too. And the Judon pick was amazing, but for our D line, that's where we were really struggling. But I know we were missing Grady, and looks like we got pretty deep for our D line this year. We got a lot of guys out there that it looks like they're just going to plug them in and rotate dudes around. I really love the dude Rukaroro. I just love saying his name. Hoping he has a good, fun career out there in Atlanta. And then we got Contavious Street, also good guy that we can plug in there and roll around and see if we can get some pressure on the quarterback, because I believe we were towards the bottom last year and getting pressure on the quarterback.
You nailed it. There's just so much depth in that room, mixture of veterans too and young guys. Like this year, they spent a second, third, and fourth round pick to shore up that front. So, they're making an emphasis on improving their secondary. AJ Terrell obviously he's proven to be a dominant corner in the league. I am a little concerned about the second corner. Right now, I'm seeing Mike Hughes, D. Alford. They got Clark Phillips, Antonio Hamilton, and then Harrison Hand is hurt right now. But who do you expect to step up? We talked about the safety room. Safety room looks great. Who's going to step up and be that number 2 corner?
If it's not Mike Hughes, Clark Phillips had a pretty good year for us last year. Richie Grant, he gave up a lot of touchdowns for us on us last year. Still a really good player, but I expect Simmons to be in his spot real soon. I'm just figuring he's trying to figure out the playbook and everything. AJ Terrell had kind of a down season last year. He still made some good plays. Still wasn't up to like what his caliber of play is, I believe. So I believe if we can leave him one-on-one, he plays a lot of number. He follows number ones around though. So of course his numbers are going to fluctuate and everything. And they had a pretty rough season last year. That's probably the weakest spot I'm feeling is just the secondary. But if Justin Simmons can step in there and him and Jesse Bates and AJ Terrell gets any productive projection of what he did about 2-3 years ago, then we'll probably be looking pretty good on defense. Our front got very stout. Our linebackers, I feel like even with injuries, we can just roll the next dude in and they're always ready to step up. Caden Ellis did amazing for us last year. He was phenomenal. I love that. We got Troy Anderson back after being injured last year.
Tyler, what are your expectations for this Atlanta Falcons defense this year?
The thing that sticks out to me is just the depth on the front seven. Touch on what Den said, you can kind of plug any linebacker in and they might not miss a beat there. I think the same, they're just strong up front. That Judon trade was huge. And then, bringing Simmons in to pair him up with Bates, like you said, a scary secondary or a scary duo there. But that secondary, it's just it's the second corner. Who's going to step up? Who's going to step up for them and be the number 2? D. Alford in the nickel, he's solid. But it's really like who's going to be that number 2 guy for them in the secondary. Other than that front seven there's a lot of depth there. So I think, Raheem Morris he has a lot to work with. So I think this can be a much improved group from last year. And then when you talk about all the improvements on the offensive side of the ball, which is really just like, getting a quarterback, I think they're in good shape right now. So I like what they did. I like where they're going. And I'm excited to see kind of how this all plays out.
You think it's their division to lose? When you look at the rest of this division, you think Atlanta should take this division?
Me? Yeah. I don't think it's theirs to lose at this point. I mean, when you bring in Kirk and those expectations are there for what this team can do, it's definitely their division to lose. I think that the perception from the public's view of the Saints they may be underrating the Saints a little bit. I think the Saints aren't a complete rollover, but the Bucs I think are going to have a bit of a regression, and the Panthers People might be
I still
sleeping
don't
on the
think they're ready.
Panthers.
I don't know. I don't think they're ready still.
They could be 1 year away.
I think they might be a couple, but yeah, definitely the Saints. I'm not sleeping on them. Never do. You never know. The Bucks on offensively, I just don't know if they're going to be potent as they were. Defense, they always figure it out there. But our schedule is also not very crazy this year. We should be able to get it done. At least get 9 wins, I believe. Game
nice.
at home against the Saints.
It's nice to be in the NFC, though, boys. I tell you that.
Yeah.
Because it could be a lot worse.
This division specifically, yeah. Some of those other divisions are going to be tough. That North's going to be tough.
For the wheels, what would the wheels falling off look like for this team this season? Like, what would it take for, like, what's the record that they would have to have for them to say, hey, maybe it's time to just say, fuck it. We're going with Michael Penix Jr. We just drafted him in the first round. Kirk thing didn't work. Like, what do you think? How much pressure is on Kirk Cousins? Like, what level do they have to stay at for that not to be a concern?
So I would say if we go into like week 7 and we only have about 2 wins, it's going to be probably looking pretty, and our season's not looking too hot. I know the back end of our season is not too bad to get some wins, but if Kirk's not getting it done by, I don't really see us losing more than 2 games the first 7 weeks of the season here. I mean, we got a lot of home games. Yeah, I see us at least winning the division for the first time in a while, hopefully.
I mean,
we just
-130.
it looks like we got a pretty good schedule. I'm just happy we don't have to pay these AFC teams all the time. So those, you know what I mean? Like those teams you got to play teams like Buffalo, Baltimore, Kansas City, all that's
it doesn't
end all the time. Yeah, it's not.
No.
Yeah, it's not. But, even Cleveland. Yeah, that would be a rough year. But we gotta, and luckily the South is very, very weak.
Yeah, the South has got some work to do, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But to speak on the Kirk Cousins situation, I don't see them playing Penix this year. I think all the money they gave Kirk, they're putting a lot of pressure on him.
Unless Kirk gets hurt, I don't really see it happening, man.
They give him a huge contract coming off of a serious injury for an older quarterback, and then they go and draft a quarterback in the first round with the number 8 overall pick. And hey, by the way, the only thing this team was missing was a quarterback. Here you go, Kirk. Get us the division, get us to the playoffs. So I do think that there is quite a bit of pressure on Kirk, and they've invested a lot, obviously, financially into him. So I don't see Penix, coming in this year, as long as Kirk is doing Kirk-ish things, even if the Falcons are off to, I don't know, a 3-6 start, I still don't see Penix coming in at that point. Maybe late in the year, if they're, 3 games out of the wild card and there's only a couple weeks left and there's actually no way that they can get in, then maybe we see Penix at that point. Otherwise, I think you're going to get a steady dose of Kirk.
Well, Denz, it's been a blast talking Atlanta Falcons with you. We appreciate you coming on. We'll have to have you again, buddy. Good luck this season.
And go Navy, beat Army.
Yes, sir.
So again, want to thank Denzel for hopping on, talking some Atlanta Falcons with us. Tyler, that was it. We got football less than 24 hours. Can't fucking wait.
Ready to roll. Blast.
Ready to roll. If you're on YouTube right now, don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Spotify. Appreciate everybody listening. We will see you next time. Goodbye.
Peace.
how they haven't figured out Daniel Jones is not the
Oh,
guy for them yet. But
we don't know that. We don't know that.
I feel like we do, man. They should have paid Saquon, man. They should have paid Saquon, and they're gonna find out this
Yes,
year.
they should
They're
have
gonna
definitely
find.
paid Saquon.
They're gonna find out.
When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll tour. When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore.